r/AskReddit. Serious, when did COVID-19 get real for you? I have worked in investigation security for 8 years and was always told we can never work from home. Reason being we have access to millions of individuals' sensitive data and they didn't want to risk it being stolen. 2 weeks ago they bought hundreds of laptops and sent us all home to work. Just heard that the company that sews MLB uniforms is bringing back their workers to start making surgical gowns. This is starting to sound like the factory conversions to war production during World War II. Today, when the government announced they're going to start putting the dead in a skating rink inside a local shopping mall because the local funeral homes don't have any more capacity. My aunt is one of the 100 people that have died in the last 24 hours in the US. She was like a mother to me growing up and I feel like my childhood just died with her. This is the first death in my life that has me confronting the realities of losing someone close to you. I was planning on going to visit her not too long ago, but the developing concerns over COVID kept me from doing so because she was already very sick. My cautious nature was to no avail because it still killed her. I could have seen her, but I didn't because I was concerned about something that happened anyways. This morning it got very real for me. When I was told by the administration that we had one box of N95 masks in the hospital. When my college switched to online and I had to move back home, I was living on campus. When I lost my job, my cousin got sick, was admitted to the ICU, and tested positive for it. He's been out of the hospital for a few days but hasn't really improved. He just hasn't gotten worse. I texted with him a bit and it's still really serious. He has asthma as well. I guess it was only a matter of time before it affected somebody I know. Edit. Thank you so much for all the well wishes. I will pass them along. To answer the most frequently asked question. My cousin is 34. Edit 2. He's based in NYC. When I learned closed the pubs shortly before St. Patrick's Day. When I realized that having a bottle of hand sanitizer in my car, in plain view, might not be a good idea. When my colleague died, she was the first COVID-19 death in our state. I had seen her a few weeks ago and she was doing great, and then I received a company-wide email that she had passed. When my friend in Paris messaged me that France had shut down. When I realized I should not be able to go home and see my elderly parents, one of which recently got diagnosed with cancer. Edit. Thank you guys for the heartwarming messages. I don't think I'll be going back to my hometown, but I will for sure be FaceTiming and calling and doing whatever I can. I called my parents sobbing because I was scared I wouldn't get to see them again. Tell your family and your friends that you love them, regardless of their health. Take care everyone. And know we got this and it'll pass over in no time. Much love from Seattle. When I went grocery shopping for the first time in several days last week, and many of the shelves were completely empty. When Walmart stopped being open 24/7. When my so who does not panic, stays calm in all situations, came home with a big bag of flour and rice. My girlfriend is a wildlife virologist. When she started constantly reading articles during her free time, maybe mid-February or so, I realized it was the real deal. When cases popped up a few miles from my elderly, immune-compromised father's home, I started being truly scared for him and others. Wednesday, March the 11th. I'm a teacher and that was the first day that we had a meeting about the extremely unlikely odds that we would miss school. By Thursday, we knew that we would be out, but we figured that it would be the week after spring break. On Friday, we knew that we weren't coming back for at least 3 weeks. Now, I doubt we go back until next year. When my boss told me that I will be working from home for 8-12 weeks. When colleges and K-12 schools closed, that's not a light decision and the people making those calls are very educated. I immediately knew things were about to hit the fan. When the whole country of Italy was put on lockdown, that should have been a wake-up call for the world to take it deadly serious. Honestly, when the death toll in China surpassed SARS, I'm kind of an anxious person anyway, but infectious diseases have always scared me because there's no real control over who lives and dies. Other than my sister, my immediate family acted like I was crazy and overreacting. When I told my friend that I had been buying a little extra each grocery trip, she thought I was being ridiculous. She's a nurse and recently told me how real it is to her now. We own a small business. 3 days ago the government ordered us to shut down. We had to let go all of our employees, including 3 senior citizens who depended on their checks for their livelihood. We have some savings but not nearly enough to continue to live and maintain the business afloat. But the state is not offering enough help for us. We are really in a tough situation. Our employees are also in the same boat. We have a 30-year-old employee who has nobody. She lives by herself and most likely will get evicted, as her landlord is an a-hole. Her situation is desperate. This is so sad and so crazy. All of our hard work is going down the drain in 3 weeks. My first shift at the hospital after 9 days off and seeing how absolutely unprepared we were to deal with what's coming. For example, 2 nurses were allowed to come back to work after flying home from a cruise in early March. They pulled both of them and sent them into quarantine, but not until they received a call from the cruise line that 2 passengers so far had tested positive. There was at least 2 people on our unit who were like 99% confirmed. They just hadn't been tested because neither met the criteria for testing in this state, having left the country recently or directly knowing someone who had. And now I'm in the middle of another 9-day stretch off, having had what feel like a chest cold for going on 3 or 4 days now. Knowing I need to check in for a virtual health consultant, wondering if they'll be footing the bill if I'm told to take 2 weeks off. When my first patient tested positive and I realized I had been in that room without PPE. About a month or so ago when my hospital converted a ward into a negative pressure unit in anticipation of our first patient from one of the cruise ships. We're still changing related procedures and protocols almost daily and prepping other wards to accept patients with pending tests. When the NBA was cancelled. When my thesis defense was forced to be live streamed from my apartment in just a single day's notice. Luckily the connection was great, the audience was small, and I was able to not wear pants. Oh, also, luckily I passed it to Mayo. Edit. Thanks for the support. Also, just call me Master Jota 314. My colleagues deserve so much of the credit as it is. And good luck to everyone figuring out how to do your defenses with your universities. When I realized that if my mother, who is 70 but generally healthy, falls ill, I can't get to her because that would involve air travel. When I had to cancel my wedding. When I was on Nextdoor and saw that people are posting which grocery stores have food, I wasn't blind to anything. I was taking it seriously and all. But that was the moment where I realized, holy shit, we are currently in a world where people have to post which grocery stores have food. When Greenland got infected. When the Chinese government was snatching people off the streets who refused to self-isolate while they were sick. That was real enough to me to know this was serious. When I realized that most people don't understand exponential increase. It's been real for me since hearing about Italy locking down, because I've been in shortage situations before, namely Hurricane Katrina, but it got really real when I found out the guy across from me tested positive, and I was on the elevator with him last Monday, so that kinda blows. He's fine, thankfully, just in self-quarantine, but now with the pollen coming out and all, every little sniffle and scratch I feel in my throat has me convinced I'm getting the damn thing. When my otherwise perfectly healthy 31-year-old husband collapsed from lack of oxygen walking up a flight of stairs. When China built the huge hospital in 1 week. When my 22-year-old daughter got it. When I found out the virus can trigger cytokine explosions in your body. I have an overactive immune system that keeps trying to kill my lymph nodes. That's a quick and very agonizing death for me if I get it. My Korean friend in school started crying because kids were making fun of her about it. It's pretty fricked. When my grandma died of it 2 weeks ago. My dad has it. I just found out today. I'm 1,700 kilometers away and afraid I'm never going to see him again. When I started showing early symptoms today, and I live with my whole family. I heard from it the first time when people started dying in China. Paid more attention when people started dying closer to home. Got real when Europe went full lockdown mode. Went to steroids when I lost my job. When I found out both me and my husband are likely to get activated, National Guard, and we will have to send our 4YO daughter across the country to stay with family. Update. My husband went to in-processing this morning at his unit. He explained the circumstances, his contract ends next month, but they still planned on having him in process. Which, hey, whatever. If they need us, they need us. Our daughter had a fever last week, which they also knew about. She's fine now. But once my husband got there, they decided it was too much of a risk to use him in the off chance it was the coronavirus. It kinda sucks he drove out of state to his unit to immediately get sent home. But it's also a huge weight lifted from our shoulders for now. I was taking it pretty serious, but I'd say it kicked into super high gear when all sports got cancelled in like 4 days. Since then every day the rules of life change. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.